All right, this is our first episode of our Underdog Sports NBA Edition podcast called the Players Union. My name is Josh Wilson. I am hashtag the True North on our page. And joining me, I'll let these other guys introduce themselves.
I'll go ahead and go. I'm Brendan Kornberg with a Q, not a K or C, which most people think. My hashtag on Underdog Sports is Jordan Pushed Off, which gets me shit every time I post something. Someone makes a comment about my hashtag about Jordan not pushing off. But I represent the Jazz for USNBA.
My name is Rob Niedermeyer. My hashtag is the Randalorian. I proudly rep the New York Knicks. So, yeah.
I'm Josh Magny, hashtag human highlight meme. Big Atlanta fan. Josh Smith is probably my favorite player ever, but we'll see what Trey does.
Alright, so for our first topic tonight, we're going to discuss Ben Simmons, who has said that he will not be reporting to camp, and he's not playing for the 76ers anymore. Do you guys think he will be traded? Or will the Sixers, refuse to trade him?
Well, I think if the Sixers will quit asking for like 3 first-round draft picks in return, they might be able to find a trade partner. But from what I've heard, the asking price is crazy high.
I've heard the same thing, but in all reality, if he somehow lives up to the potential of, being the guy, if you just get the shot under him, he's worth 3 first-round picks, wholeheartedly.
I don't think the question's if he gets traded. It's definitely when, whether that's, depending on the asking price, they're trying to find partners. I don't think he's worth 3 first-round picks. I don't know how, they plan on doing that. But I think there's a couple options out there. I don't know. I think teams know he wants out, and they're going to make the price go down because they know he wants out.
The Sixers have no leverage, right? He's been very clear with it. And I hate to admit it, as much as personally, all Jazz fans, we really can't stand Ben Simmons because of his Rookie of the Year win against Donovan Mitchell a few years ago. But he would be the perfect fit to help the Jazz fix their perimeter defense and some of the things we need. But there's no way we're getting him. He wouldn't come to Utah, and we definitely don't have the assets to get him anyway.
Well, the reports are saying that he'd be willing to go anywhere. He just wants out. When the first reports came out, it was one of the good California teams, which is basically anyone but Sacramento. And so now it's coming out that he just wants to be gone. He doesn't care where. He'd rather just go start all over. And you hear all these mixed reports about, the Toronto Siakam thing. You hear about the Timberwolves with the D'Angelo Russell thing. I actually like what Nick Wright brought up today. One of the most amazing trades out there would be if you traded Simmons straight up for Kyrie. How dangerous would the Nets be on that? And then how much better would the Sixers be?
I like that.
Why would the Nets do that? That makes them worse.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't make the Nets worse, though, because what Kyrie lacks, Simmons has, right? And the Nets have enough shooters on that team that they can cover for Ben Simmons' inability to shoot a jump shot.
Ben Simmons would play a small ball center. He'd play small ball center with Durant at the 4. James Harden would be the point guard.
I like that trade a lot, but I think the Nets would be eaten alive in the New York papers.
The New York press would love Ben Simmons. That'd be fantastic.
The New York press would eat Simmons for lunch.
I know, but the entertainment value would be great.
It would be.
I think, me personally, I think the Timberwolves should wait it out and then package D'Angelo to there. I really think that's what, because D'Angelo is what the Sixers need, a second scorer. wait it out. You get that, and then you got Anthony Edwards growing up. You got Cat coming in. Ben can push in transition. He can still play the point. He adds defense. I really think Minnesota should just wait, and then whenever no one else has anything, offer D'Angelo in a first-round pick, and probably have to add another piece or two to make the money work. But yeah, if I was Minnesota, I would just wait it out, and I think they end up getting it because that would still be a young team with Cat because he's only 25. So like Cat, Simmons, and Anthony Edwards. I mean, that's a pretty good big three going forward.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
I don't buy the Dame stuff. I don't buy that at all.
No, I mean, and Portland came out and said recently that their plan is to continue to build around Dame, right? Like, I don't know what else they can say, but I don't think Dame's going anywhere.
No. But yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. I don't foresee. Yeah.
It's interesting. I mean, he's a prime example of a player that has all the skill in the world, but has not been able to figure out how to improve his offensive game. And you look at someone like what we have in Utah with Rudy Gobert. The reason why people claim he's so overpaid is because he has no offensive game. He has no low post presence, right? And players like that get handicapped, and it's really hard to improve if you're not going to put the work in.
Well, I don't know if it's necessarily that so much. Rudy Gobert is a center in a guard league. Ben Simmons is a point guard where point guards are averaging 27 points a game. I mean, look at his contemporaries. Dame, Steph, Harden, Kyrie, Luka. To be a point guard in the NBA now, you have to score. I think if that was taken away from him and he was a small ball center or like a stretch four where all he's doing is cutting to the backs, I don't think people would be so hard up against his offensive game because they just expect more because you're the point guard. Yeah, it's not like it was, point. Derek Fisher averaged 8 points a game for his career, something like that.
Right.
People are expecting point guards to be the scorers now because they have the ball in their hand. So right. I think that's the biggest thing for him. If he got somewhere where he wasn't the primary ball handler, if he just pushed in transition and he just cut to baskets, I'd like to see him receive more alley-oops. I'd like to see him receive that. Dude can jump to the roof.
Yeah. No, he's an insane athlete. There's no denying the talent.
Yeah. Who do you guys think will be the biggest loser in this situation, Ben Simmons or the Sixers?
I think Simmons has put the Sixers in a position where they're prone to lose, right? He's demonstrated publicly he wants out. He's really taken away any leverage the Sixers have. So it just depends on how patient the Sixers are going to be and whether or not they're just willing to deal with him sitting out. But hopefully at the end of the day, they both end up in good positions and it helps, both the Sixers and Simmons. But Ben has really put the Sixers in a bad spot.
I think if the Sixers can get a Bradley Beal or they can, if they can get that second true scorer, if Bradley Beal and Simmons make the same amount of money, their contract is the exact same, except Ben's got more years. I think Ben could end up in a worse situation if Washington just wants to fully rebuild and Beal went to the Sixers. The Sixers win. They get a true guy who can light it up. They still got their depth, so it really depends on who the trade partner is. I ultimately, normally players win out. But if Ben is so ridiculously saying, I just want gone, I don't care who it is, because he's got 3 more years on his contract, I mean, he can't say much.
Right.
I think ultimately Ben could lose if the Sixers act quickly. And that's the big thing. They need to act quickly.
And I'm not sure that they're willing to back down on their asking price.
We'll see.
All right, so the next topic moving on that I had was Kevin Love refusing his buyout from the Cleveland Cavaliers. Is that a smart move?
On his part, yes. Like I touched on it before we started recording. I think someone said it was like $32 million they were trying to give him when he's owed $60. If I was him, you stay there and you get that bag. You get that $60 million.
Yeah, he's never gonna get a big contract again. Like he's done getting big payouts. Like it's over for him. That said, it is interesting because you do see a lot of players nowadays taking buyouts and going to the Lakers or going to the Nets. It's really interesting to see, he's choosing to make money. Like, right. Does he still have a college loan? Like, I'm trying to figure out why he's, staying for the Sixers. I get that's a lot of money. It's more money I've ever seen in my life. But like, why are you so like not pushing to get another ring like most veterans are? I mean, he's what, 32, 30, almost 33?
I mean, I think at this point though, he's got that ring, right? So he's got the championship with the Cavs. Cleveland's the one who signed the agreement in 2018 for $120 million, which for an injury-prone power forward at the time was probably more than they should have paid for him anyway.
Oh yeah.
If I'm him, I'm like, I've got my ring. They gave me the contract. I didn't make them sign it. I'm going to make them pay it. And you never know. I mean, maybe this year he rides it out with Cleveland, and the next year he accepts a buyout in the final year of his contract. But where there's still 2 years left, I think he's, this is his last payday, like you said. So I think he's trying to get it as much out of it as he can.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I think he'll end up playing the season with the Cavs. I don't know how much of an impact he'll have because, they're pushing with their young guards. But I think he'll end up being a trade asset next year, having 1 year left, $30 million. You can clear a lot of cap space with that. So is someone next year going to be interested, right? Like, would the Mavericks, take him for Kristaps just to get Kristaps off his books? And that way they'll have someone free and they can go charge for someone, in a max contract or free agency. So I think ultimately it is a smart move on his side. He'll play out this year. He'll get traded next year for someone trying to clear cap and, probably cut then because I doubt the contract will be guaranteed.
Yeah.
Is it really a smart move for them to trade Kristaps though? Because if he rebounds, what's to say he's just not a star again?
Well, all the reports are he hates Luka.
And sometimes Luka's going to win that, right? If they got to choose between Kristaps or Luka.
Yeah.
Bro, they literally got Rick Carlisle to fucking quit because of this shit.
Yeah, I love Unicorn, but even the Lakers got rid of Shaq over Kobe. Like, you go with the young, better player.
Right.
Every time.
Generational talent, for sure.
Oh, yeah, he's European Harden. That's what I call him.
That's actually a decent comparison.
Yeah.
He's got a more well-rounded game than Harden, too. He plays a little more defense than Harden's ever played. So, Luka's a stud.
He is. But yeah, I don't know. I think, like I said, Love plays out this year. He used to be one of my favorite players. I also feel like he has shrunk since he's got to the NBA. Like, he just looks shorter. I don't know why. He just looks shorter. I guess it's the beard. I don't know.
It's all those knee injuries. They keep shaving a bit off.
Yeah, they just keep shaving the cars. That makes sense. But no, he plays out this year. He might average a double-double this year. He might. I could see him doing, Andre Drummond numbers, when he was at the Pistons. But
if he does that, then, more teams will look at him. If he stays healthy, if he's averaging a double-double, you'll see some teams next year, final year of his contract, they'll be like, hey, that's not a bad thing to take a flyer on.
Yeah, but I think people kind of see through the silhouette now. When he was in Minnesota, people thought he was a top 5 big guy because he was putting up, 24 and 14. And then they realized, he was just on a really, really bad team. The Cavs are going to be trash. So, we'll see what happens. I could see him doing 12 points, 10 rebounds, something like that, just hitting 2 corner threes a game. But, yeah, I think his post days are pretty much done because of those knees. Yeah. But then someone ended up trading out so they can clear us with cap space later.
So I guess moving on to the Atlantic Division, this could be a fun division to watch this year. Who do you guys think won the offseason?
Well, I mean, I think you've got to look at the Brooklyn Nets, right? And they haven't changed a ton of their roster. Keeping Blake Griffin, I think, at a pretty decent price with the Pistons paying a huge amount of his salary. Not a bad thing to keep him. I think adding Patty Mills gives them that veteran point guard who can score if Kyrie decides he fell off the end of the flat earth or gets injured or something like that, right? I think Patty Mills gives them a little more depth at the point spot. And you've got a team that if Durant, Harden, and Irving are healthy come playoff time, I don't think anyone in the league's going to beat them, let alone in the Atlantic Division. So, I mean, I think the Nets have added a few pieces in places where they need to add. They lost a couple players, but all in all, I mean, I think the Nets are clearly the giant in that division and have had nothing really this offseason that's changed that.
I'm going to say, I mean, yeah, the Nets, you know, getting Patty Mills is nice, but they also lost Dinwiddie. They lost Jeff Green. They lost Shamet. Like, they lost a lot of their good depth. Me personally, I don't know who I think was better because the Knicks got a steal with Kemba Walker. Like, he just fell in their lap, and he was exactly what they needed. That said, too, I really like what Boston did. They added a lot of depth. They brought back a veteran leader. And really they got rid of guys that it wasn't working out. I'm not impressed with Drummond. I'm not impressed with I'm not impressed with the Raptors at all. So I'm leaning Knicks had a technically better offseason. I mean, re-signing Burks and Rose and Noel was good. So, yeah, I'm going to lead Knicks had a better offseason.
I mean, not to sound biased, I think Knicks had a great offseason, but I have to agree with probably the Nets or the Celtics having the best offseason in that division. The Celtics adding veteran leadership and just dumping off guys who didn't fit the team just was kind of a perfect offseason for them. I think they'll be back towards the top of the Atlantic next year.
So you think the Celtics might be? You think the Celtics might be like a top 4 team in the East again?
If the cards fall their way, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it's not going to take much. They have the talent.
Yeah, I'm also pretty high on the Celtics. I don't think the Celtics. I need to be very clear about this. I do not think the Celtics are better than the Nets. I'm
going to be clear about that as well. I don't either.
That said, it is the regular season, and I think the Celtics are going to have more depth. I think the Nets are going to play it really safe and rest their guys a lot because they don't have the depth they had during the regular season last year. So I think they're just going to coast to the playoffs, be a top 4 seed in the playoffs, and then just roll through people. I think the Nets, getting a new coaching change, getting some more depth. If Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum stay healthy, I mean, they're gonna go hard. And so I could see the Celtics winning the division. Just like I said, they got the depth, they got the stars. If they get their potential, probably top to bottom, the most depth in the division. I think we would all mostly agree on that.
Well, I'll be honest, I'm not super familiar with Josh Richardson and what he brings to the table, but I know a lot of people are really high on him. Marcus Smart's a gamer, right? He plays hard every night.
Mm-hmm.
I actually really like Enes Kanter too, which seems terrible coming from a Jazz fan considering how he left us. But Enes Kanter brings points and rebounds every night off the bench, and I think he'll give him some zip there. So I haven't been as high on the Celtics, but you guys are kind of talking me into it. I actually referred to them as a dumpster fire the other day, and after listening to you guys talk about it, I'm like, maybe I need to back off that. Maybe the Celtics are going to be better than I think. I definitely think they're going to be better than the Raptors, so the Raptors are the real dumpster fire here. But I love what the Knicks are doing. I mean, with Tibbs, he teaches team defense. Defense travels. But I think what we saw come playoff time, the question for the Knicks is going to be, have they added enough offense to keep up with the Atlanta Hawks and the Brooklyn Nets and the Milwaukee Bucks come playoff time? But defense is going to keep the Knicks in almost every game.
So about that, I think the Knicks are going to play hard defense. I think the Knicks are a chemistry experiment. Is it Randall's team or is it Kemba's team? I think they're going to have to figure that out quick because very rarely does a whole team run through a power forward. And now I'm assuming it's going to run through Kemba. And that's going to be a big, Julius Randle's, all-star, doing his thing, best numbers of his career, huge contract. And now someone's coming in taking a lot of your touches, and you got them to the 4 seed last year. They need to figure that out quick. I'm not saying they can't do it, but they need to figure that out quick because it's gonna get messy if they don't know who's the guy, anything like that.
All right, so as the resident Knicks fan, I'm just gonna say, Randall, when he was in New Orleans, wasn't the number one and still put up just about the same numbers. I feel like he could be a perfect complement to Kemba if Kemba's not hurt.
Who was the number one whenever he was in New Orleans?
Drew Holiday.
Drew Holiday's not a score first point guard though, like Kemba.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, but I think too though, Kemba, he's a scorer first, but he's also, at least from what I've seen of him, right? I mean, he's played in Charlotte and Boston. I don't get a lot of Hornets or Celtics games here in Salt Lake City, right? But he doesn't seem like a super selfish superstar. He seems like someone who can complement other players and can kind of play a role if he needs to. So, I mean, I think you've got in Kemba Walker someone who can facilitate and can help. And I don't necessarily think you see Randall drop off. I don't know. I agree with you though, Josh. I mean, it's definitely a chemistry experiment to see how they get it to work out. But Tibbs is a good coach. I mean, he's had good success. I think he's the right person to try to figure that out.
And that's another thing. Yeah.
I feel like Tibbs, he's no nonsense. If there's any bullshit between the two of them, he's just going to be like, yeah, sort it out.
Yeah, no, I get that. He'd definitely be that way. I will say this too, as far as Kemba, Kemba can facilitate the way Dame and Kyrie can facilitate, but that's not what they're, bred to do. And then I also look at, when you talk about Kemba too, the closer for the Knicks in the playoffs last year was Derrick Rose. Like, how's that rotation going to work? You got both of them on the court at the same time in the fourth quarter?
No, I think Derrick Rose is probably the sixth man.
Well, yeah, but I mean, Derrick Rose was the sixth man last year, and he still was on the last 5 minutes of the game. He was in the ball game. He was running point, and so it's interesting to kind of. I'm curious how they're going to manage their minutes together. I'm looking forward to seeing Kemba and Rose and Fournier and Randall all on the floor at once. Maybe Burks as well. They might run it super small. I don't know.
Well, and Alec Burks, he's not a shooter, right? But he's a good slasher, can create his own basket by the hoop. But they don't have to worry about him from a shooting standpoint. I think too. You look at Rose and you look at Walker. Maybe it comes down each night who's got the hot hand going into the fourth quarter, and maybe that's who Tibbs rides with. It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah,
I'm not a huge fan of Fournier, but we'll see. I don't know if Fournier really is going to add. I mean, he does add some shooting. He's not a super physical defender, though, so it'll be interesting to see how that works with Tibbs and his expectations.
Fournier's the one guy I always look at, like, why is he ranked an 80 on 2K? Like, why is he ranked that high? Like, I don't get it. Like,
yeah.
Like, you really think he's an 80 overall? Like, I've never understood, like, he's good, don't get me wrong, but I've always seen him, like, is he that great? Like, I don't know. It's just something like him being an 80 in 2K. I'm just like, he's not that good.
I feel like 80 is like an average player in 2K.
Yeah. That's true. I mean, 75 or 80 would be.
Do we think Fournier's better than KCP?
That's a good debate, yeah.
Because KCP was like a 75.
To be fair, KCP did have some bad years when that contract first started in LA. They tried to offload him.
Oh yeah, yeah. It was bad. But I don't think even if he is a little bit better than KCP, I don't think he's that much better. But like also too, I think like Tim Hardaway Jr. was like an 80 overall. Fournier's not as good as him.
No, definitely
not. True.
Well, and Fournier coming into Boston last year too, he definitely didn't tip him over to become a contender, right? Like he struggled. I mean, 13 points a game with the Celtics. So,
and that was without Jaylen Brown. Like he should have been getting 13 points off the bench.
Yeah.
Like, so we'll see. Like I said, I'm just not high on Fournier or any French player.
I don't know. I am excited though because if the Knicks are good, NBA is more entertaining in my opinion.
You get the New York press fully into it.
Yeah.
Because the NBA press doesn't really care about the Nets.
Yeah, but then we have to hear their fans.
How great?
Come on, we aren't that bad.
How great would a Knicks-Nets series be in the playoffs?
It'd be a great 4 games, man. It'd be a great 4 games.
Yeah.
Hey, screw you, man. I think they would I think it would go 5. Come on now.
Yeah, it might go 5.
And just hear those great Garden crowds and, the crowd involvement at those games would be fun to hear on TV.
Yeah. I can imagine the chants they would have towards Kyrie.
Right.
It is interesting because, like, me being where I'm at, I'm not in the Atlantic region. Like, those fans can travel to those games, like the away games. They're not that far from each other. Like New York's not that far from Philadelphia, not that far from Boston. Like, you can go to those games. Like, for me, it's not an easy thing to go to Orlando and then turn around and jump back up to Atlanta, then turn around and that's not easy. I mean, those are rides. Atlanta to Charlotte's not a bad ride, but you look at Orlando and stuff like that. So it's
Boston to New York, like 6 hours.
Do we know are Toronto are they actually going to be in Canada this year? Or are they still going to be the Tampa Bay Raptors all season? Because
I think they're in Canada.
I think they will be back because the Jays and the Leafs were both back.
Nice. There is something about the home court advantage with Toronto. They were awful last year. Definitely underperformed compared to their talent.
Well, see, that's the thing is, like, they're gonna be even worse. Like, losing Lowry in exchange for Dragic, like, I think the Raptors are gonna blow it up this year. I think they're gonna try to get rid of Siakam. I don't know who would take him. Because they're at the point where, like, they're projected to win like 35, 36 games, right? That's not good enough to get, that's if you're tanking, that's not where you want to be. That's not good enough to get in the playoffs, and it's not good enough to get the first pick. So they're in that horrible, horrible position of, was it like NBA purgatory? Like, they need to blow it up. They have Dragic is 75 years old. Siakam is a really good trade piece. And, outside of that, you don't have too much else going on. I mean, realistically, they could probably also trade Van Fleet to a contender and to get something in return.
I would take Van Fleet in New York.
There you go. So I think they need to just go ahead and blow it up. I mean, they're going to come in last place in the division, easy. They are easily the worst team in the division, and so blow it up. I don't know where you send people to. I mean, that'll be really interesting. I don't know who'd be in the market for Van Fleet. I don't know who'd be in the market for Siakam. Dragic's just going to stay there and collect his money. And then what's his face? Was it Temple? Was that his name that re-signed with him? Well, they just need to blow it up, man. It's not good.
Yeah, they're definitely at that point. I completely agree with you. They have to pull a Houston Rockets, right? Let's look at what the Rockets did last year. That's what the Raptors need to be aiming for. 17 wins.
Yeah.
Is a good season for Toronto.
Yeah.
Because
I'm a Raptors fan, and I'll admit that. Get the number 1 pick.
I don't even know who are they already talking about as far as the number 1 pick this year. I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know either.
I don't either.
We'll have to do some research on that. Maybe next time we can talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't even remember who that was. But I mean, realistically, this division's probably going to have 4 teams in the playoffs.
Yeah. So do you guys think it's the best division in basketball?
In the East.
Yeah, I mean, you have to look, like, in the East, I completely agree, because, I mean, there is a legitimate chance that Toronto might surprise some people and actually be somewhat competitive, right? So you've got from top to bottom 5 teams in the Atlantic that could be respectable. You look at, like, the Central Division, Cleveland's going to suck. Detroit's going to be better, but they're probably not going to be sniffing playoffs. Chicago's going to be respectable, but not great. Indiana's going to be good, but Milwaukee's obviously the king there. Southeast Division, Charlotte could be good. A lot of people are high on what Charlotte's done this offseason.
I don't know why.
I don't know. The Wizards aren't going to be that great. Orlando sucks. But in the West, I mean, I think the best division top to bottom, you have to look at the Pacific. Like, I mean, you've got a big drop off with Sacramento, but you've got Phoenix, the Clippers, the Lakers, and Golden State, who's going to be pushing next year for a championship. Like,
yeah.
I still, if you ask me which division I think's got the most talent, I'm going to say Pacific Division in the Western Conference. But the Atlantic's interesting, man. Preparing for this and doing some research, I'm actually really excited to see what happens in that division this year.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like I said, I think the Atlantic's definitely the best in the East. But like you said, the Pacific, those are some dogs. Like, as much as I think the Celtics, the Knicks, are going to be in the playoffs, probably, 6 seeds, 7 seeds, they don't have a shot to win the title. The Clippers, the Lakers, Golden State, and Phoenix legitimately have shots. So it's, you can't say the Atlantic's the best. You can say they're better in the East, but you can't say they're the best overall.
Yeah, totally agree.
All right,
but yeah, well, here's the ultimate question: who's better, the Kings or the Raptors?
I'm gonna say the Kings.
I'm gonna say the Raptors.
Yeah, I'm gonna say the Kings.
I mean, I'm biased as a Raptors fan, but I'm gonna say the Raptors.
Well, I think if the Kings, I mean, if the Raptors have a good season, they're going to want to be worse than the Kings, right? So,
That's true.
The Kings always suck, though. I mean, after Weber and Jason Williams, White Chocolate, after they're gone.
Oh, whoa, Bibby. They went to the playoffs with Bibby.
Yeah,
Bibby replaced White Chocolate. Got that bald white guy with a headband, like Mr. Clean's son out there.
They haven't been relevant since then. So, I mean, at least Toronto's got a championship. So,
right.
Yeah, I mean they bought it, and they would do that anytime again. Yeah, here's my thing. Having a resident Knicks fan, would you want a guy to come? Like, if you had to trade everything to get one guy, like, would you trade that one guy knowing you're going to get a championship and he's going to leave the next year? Would you want that? You know he's going to leave, and he's going to leave you in turmoil. You're not going to get anything back.
Turmoil. That's the big one.
Is it, though? Because hasn't that been y'all since, 2000?
Damn you.
I was going to say 99, but yeah, 2000 works.
Yeah, there you go.
Put on the spot here, but honestly, it depends on who the player is. If you can guarantee I get LeBron as a Knick for 1 year, yeah, I'll do it.
If it guarantees you a championship.
Yeah, if it guarantees me a championship, I'll take it. I've only ever seen one per sports championship for the teams I like in my lifetime. I'd like another.
No, and I'll say as a Jazz fan, I mean, that's the easiest decision ever, right? The list of teams without a championship is shrinking, and we're still on it. I would rent a championship for a year and be in purgatory for the next 5 to finally get that ring.
Selling your souls for gold.
And as the Raptors fan in the room, I would say that it was absolutely worth it for Kawhi for 1 year, get the championship.
I could see it. I don't know, though, man. I don't know if because it's like I'm starting to feel like what I'd imagine the Knicks fans used to feel like. Like, hey, my Hawks, they're going to get better. They're still young. That's a lot of talent. They're right there. But then I'm ultimately looking like the Nets are going to crush them, right? Like, they don't have an answer for Giannis. Like, as good as they are, they're just not there. And eventually we're not going to be able to afford everyone, and the team's going to break up. Like, if I'm looking at it, like, we got a 3-year window max to make this work, and I don't think Giannis and the Nets are going anywhere.
So welcome to how I felt during the Melo era.
Yeah.
I was going to say that the Hawks and Jazz are almost like exact copies of each other, right? 2 to 3 year window.
In fairness, you had 2 Hall of Famers, all-time greats. I've had 1. Unless you count Christian Laettner.
Yeah. Who would have been drafted by the Jazz if we didn't need a bunch of money, right? We sold Dominique Wilkins to the Hawks because we needed money to make our payroll.
Yep. Think about that. Y'all could have that'd have been a nice team.
Yeah, we would have had Meek, Malone, and Stockton.
That'd have been the best fast break in the league.
Yeah, that would have been amazing. But the team probably would have been the Minnesota Jazz because we wouldn't have been able to stay in Utah. So who knows?
Who would have known what Brendan's fandom would have been?
I always did like if y'all remember the movie Basketball, and they used to joke around how like the sports teams would move from city to city. And it was talking about how the Jazz moved to Utah where they don't allow music. And then, the Minneapolis Lakers moved to LA where there are no lakes. Like, it was just.
Well, and I don't know if it's true or not, but I've heard that the reason why the Jazz kept the name was because there was a bunch of money involved in rebranding and changing the name, and they couldn't afford it. The team was broke when they left New Orleans, and so it's just like, well, we can't afford to change the name, so Jazz it is.
Wait, the Jazz are from New Orleans?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where else would Jazz be from?
St. Louis?
No.
They were in New Orleans when
St. Louis is the Blues. St. Louis is the Blues, right?
Oh yeah, you're right. They're hockey, yeah.
Or hey, whoa, St. Louis used to be the Blues. It's all about Nellyville now, right? Right. He wears his Air Force Ones.
All right, so we're running low on time. So do you guys have any closing thoughts?
Well, who are we predicting? I guess we need to go around the horn. Who are we predicting? Like, what's our order? What do we think our order is going to be? And we got to stand by it.
So let's go.
For regular season. For just regular season.
All right, so let's go Nets, Celtics, Knicks, Sixers, and then the Raptors, I think, are in that division, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so Raptors in last.
And I'm going to go, you guys have definitely changed my opinion a bit on Boston, but I'm not going to be as high as you on Boston. But clearly the Nets win this division. I think the Knicks are going to surprise some people and actually end up in the number 2 spot. Philadelphia, with their turmoil, it's going to drag into the regular season. I think that gives Boston a chance to finish third. Philly finishes a very disappointing fourth. And the Raptors, if they do it right, will win no more than 17 games.
I'm going to go with, I think the Celtics are going to go hard in the regular season. So I'm going to go with the Celtics. They're also the youngest team in the division. And they're going to have the most depth. So I'm going with the Celtics 1. I'm going to go with the Nets 2. I'm going to go with the Sixers 3rd, even with all the turmoil on Simmons. I'm going to go with the Knicks 4th, just because I think they definitely overachieved last year. And I need to see the Rose, Randall, Kemba combination. I need to see that. And then, yeah, obviously the dumpster fire, the Raptors are going to be 5th.
Poor Josh.
Right,
they're not a dumpster fire, but they need to be a dumpster fire.
Go bold or go home, Josh. You're going to pick the Raptors to finish first, right?
No, I'd like to, but I think the Knicks are going to surprise everybody and win the division.
Ooh.
Then I think the Nets in 2nd, then Celtics, Sixers, and then the Raptors in last, but with the best chance for the number 1 overall pick, which will be a win on the season.
Hey, they're going to have to fight. They're going to have to fight Memphis for that.
What about fighting Houston for?
That's true. Houston.
Yeah.
Houston's going to be bad. OKC's going to be pretty bad.
OKC's going to shock people, but if we have a thing on their division, I'll go into where I think about them.
That's the plan.
And I think next time we should talk about who's going to take the number 1 pick next year, or be in that conversation for the lottery, and then maybe discuss the Central Division.
Sounds good, man.
That could be fun, yeah.
Sounds good.
All right, so that was it for the first episode of our USNBA podcast, the Players Union. Right,
well,
that was what we went with?
I hope we can keep that name. We'll have to do a little more research.
Worst comes to worst, we could change it to the Players Confederacy. I can do that. Represent the South down here.
I like that.
So I'd like to thank all of our listeners for joining us.
Yeah, same. Hopefully you keep listening to the next one.
Yeah.
Hopefully he somehow entertains you enough to draw you back in.
We'll bore people if I keep getting into Utah Jazz history, so we'll try to stay away from that next time.
I mean,